Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Saturday's chess show. And my name is Sasha Starr. I'd like to introduce my esteemed guests, starting with first-time appearance of Grandmaster Joel Benjamin. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Thanks, Sasha. It's good to be here.
Okay, and I would like to introduce also our almost regular guest, Professor Ken Regan.
Yes, thank you. And it is a great surprise to be on the show with Joel.
Oh.
I've known since our time as upcoming juniors in the 1970s.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Wow, that's great to have you both. And of course, I'd like to introduce Jim Eade from Eade Foundation, who was instrumental to bring Joel Benjamin to the show. And I appreciate it. Hello. Now, we have a lot to cover.
You don't get it if you don't ask.
Offered many incentives, yes.
However, I'd like to start somewhat unusual our show today with, what I have to do is to share my screen. And I would like to show you one game. Probably you already saw it many times, but however, I'd like to show you this. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay. It's a game played by Reshevsky and Fischer in their famous match in 1961. It's highly contested match which never brought the definite result. It was adjourned after even score. And it was highly contested match, and there was, I think, some lawsuits after the match. However, in this game, Reshevsky has white and Fischer black. Reshevsky was still great power in 61, and Fischer, of course, was just starting his meteoric advance to the World Championship, although he was not as strong as in 70-72, but still formidable player. By all means. So it's a very aggressive opening play by both sides.
Yeah.
And so far it's very difficult even to see who has any advantage, if anybody.
Yeah, white's up the pawn, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
Fischer often liked to play this King's Indian with exchanges in the center, and rather than play for the pawn storm. But doesn't look like it was really the thing to do here.
Yeah. So far, I think white has a better pawn structure, and
wow, this is pretty interesting.
Okay, but black's position is, I would say, sound still. Although now it's it's not anymore, I guess. It's highly technical game, and it appears to me that white.
Now it looks drawish to me.
Well, he needs to trade off one queenside pawn, but the king is coming over to get the D pawn.
Yeah, it looks like white is taking over, especially now that he put all his row in a very formidable position, and now it looks like black is doomed.
Yeah, black's king is cut off.
Well, the king cutting off, the king cut off is the problem.
Yeah, that's right. And one pawn cannot do much. Now, the reason that I show you this game is very interesting is that Reshevsky, in my opinion, of course, he would become a world champion if increments would be available at his time. Because
I was just thinking that, but forget about increments, even just digital clocks. Like, think about all those games where Reshevsky stared at his hanging flag, not knowing if he had 45 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. Yeah. Even just a digital readout would have made a huge difference.
Great point.
But I think that and if increments, I hate increments, by the way. But if it could be available at his time, I think he would never lost any of this position.
He would have helped him.
And I think he would be okay for sure. Anyway, I want to stop sharing that.
Yeah, I would like to ask Joel, how much different is 5 minutes no increment blitz chess from 3 minutes with a 2-second increment?
What was the second one with the 2 in?
3 minutes with the 2-second increment, like in the World Blitz.
Well, actually, I would say, since the Manhattan Chess Club closed, I've played very, very little blitz, so I don't have that much experience myself, but I can tell you what it was like, when I used to play in the Manhattan Rapids, which was 7-minute, but it almost didn't matter because however much time you have, you're going to use it. And when you get to the end of the game, and I played, like millions of games with Jimmy Sherwin, and a friend of mine used to describe those finishes to the games of Jimmy Sherwin as basketball, because the pieces would start bouncing up and down on the board.
Right.
And so anything with increment, even the tiniest amount of increment, it just prevents people from that need to hit the clock so fast that everything goes flying. Of course, that's in a physical game. I mean, on the internet it's different. But I like having some kind of increment, because I just hate these situations where you're going to win the game on the board 100%, but you're also going to lose the game on the clock 100% because you're just going to run out of time.
With a visitor 2 weeks ago, and if I got down to 6 seconds and my opponent at 19 seconds, and it's a digital clock that's ticking off 1 second each move, I just resign.
And I can tell you my early experience on the Internet Chess Club. I don't really know how to even challenge other people, so I would always just be accepting challenges. And everybody wanted to play 3-minute no increment. So it's like almost all my games are like that. And I had so many games where it's like, okay, just resign already. And instead of resigning, they would just run me over on time. Or if it didn't go in position, they'd run me over on time. And it's just it wasn't any fun.
Yeah.
I'm a proponent of increment and blitz, but not in classical. But I do think, Danny Kopek and I used to play 2-minute chess, and it was just a question of who could hit the clock faster. So there was I do think increments do improve the blitz experience and a great deal.
Yeah. However, I want to mention something else about this games that I just shown. Reshevsky was also one who beat Capablanca. And we discussed earlier before the show that there are 4 players in the history of chess who defeated both.
Oh, I think I got another one now.
Fischer. Yeah. So, so one is Reshevsky. So we covered that. But what do you think? Who are the other 3?
Oh, right. That's a great trivia question. Wow. Well, Botvinnik? Did Botvinnik defeat Fischer?
Botvinnik didn't beat Fischer?
Botvinnik never beat Fischer.
He never beat Fischer.
Oh, I was going to say Botvinnik.
He drew his famous game in Bulgaria Chess Olympiad in '62. But actually, he was about to lose that game rather than win. But anyway, the game was drawn.
Okay, so let's see. So,
the hint. No one was a world champion of those 4 players.
So probably American.
Okay. Yes.
What about this?
Restate the question, Sasha.
I'll try slowly to help you. One was a great competitor of Reshevsky. They played in many candidates tournament in 1953. In many they played.
Kashtan?
No, Kashtan never.
He'd be done by then.
53. No.
Yeah. Najdorf?
Okay. I'll help you with the second one.
Keller?
Grandmaster Paul Keres.
Oh, Keres, yeah. Okay.
When
I was a kid, he was said to be the best player not to be world champion. So
right.
It's like very next level.
But I think Bronstein was one. I think even Reshevsky, he was one of the strongest players never become world champion. And of course Korchnoi. That's
Korchnoi, of course, developed later and then became usually the number
after
1.
After you were a kid. Yeah.
So we have 50%. We have Keres, we have
when I started playing chess, Korchnoi was playing Karpov. That's the time frame. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I must correct myself. Actually, there was one world champion who defeated both Fischer and
That would have been Botvinnik if it was me, but
Smyslov.
No, but you're getting close.
Tal? Oh no.
Tal was born.
No,
he
Tal
was
never played
Irva.
Capablanca.
Irva.
Who?
Irva. Max Irva.
Karpov. How could you play Capablanca though? And he never played Fischer either.
Yeah.
Oh, he beat Fischer. He
Yeah,
never
one-
played Capablanca? Really?
Who?
Huh.
Karpov?
No, I said
No, no.
Irva. Max Irva.
Oh, Max Oive. Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Max Oive is number 3, and one more. That one is the most difficult because he's not well-known grandmaster. But
Well,
okay, the hint is he was born in Austria, and he had also the Brazilian and Argentine citizenship.
Tory or
No.
Tory.
His
Not Mexican.
Gosh, then I would have thought Nidor.
his first name was Eric.
Alexis, that one? Or
Yes.
how you pronounce it?
Eric
Ellis-
Cassis. Wow.
Alexis, yeah.
Actually, he defeated Capablanca twice in the same year, which is very seldom happened to him. And he
Nice.
defeated Fischer, I think it was in Buenos Aires tournament in 1960. So Fischer was not at his prime, but still difficult to beat.
One of my favorite books as a child was How to Beat Bobby Fischer
Yeah.
by Edmore
Yeah.
Bednes. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of kitschy, I guess, but I mean, I love those diagrams with the losing moment. That was just such a genius idea Bednes had. It really made it.
I'm surprised that it wasn't followed by other authors.
Yeah, I own that book. Was it joined with Warren Berger or I think of something else? But
I think that's something else, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I always liked that book.
So we all agree that chess in the past was great.
Oh, that's exactly what we had covering. And there are so many great moments about it.
It was great for us because we were younger.
yes, that's right. How about chess in the 1970s? Yeah.
But chess in the 1970s, you win the World Open, you get $1,000. You know. Actually, I won a World Open by beating poor Ken, and I didn't get a whole lot of money. You know, it wasn't like $10,000 back then. So it got better. It got a lot better in terms of prizes after that.
What's wild is that was the one time the World Open was played in Rockland County, New York. New Paltz. Yeah.
I was an expert at winning that tournament when it was not in Philadelphia proper or New York City.
Okay, that's good.
Was it played at the McAlpin Hotel in New York City? Is that right?
I
think that might have been the only one I played at.
It was either that or the Roosevelt. I'm not sure.
Roosevelt, more like
Roosevelt.
Yeah, it may have been after he switched to the Roosevelt.
Okay.
But I played in the booster section most of those years.
Joe, I would like to ask you a question. Since you were a contributor to the IBM success in the match against Gary Kasparov,
Right.
I'm wondering how would you compare the strength of that program, the Deep Blue, that beat Gary to today's Alpha Zero?
Oh, well, I mean, I think Stockfish that you download for free is stronger than Deep Blue. I mean, Alpha Zero, forget about it. But the thing is, now, even though I worked for IBM on that project, I'm still basically a layman, when it comes to computer science or computer chess. I mean, I got a history degree. But at some point, I asked Murray Campbell, who was my colleague at IBM on the project, and I said, well, why are the computers so good now? What is it that they figured out? And he told me that there was something about the search that they had an idea of doing, but they just felt that they couldn't really do it without with any certainty and knowing that it wouldn't wreck the program. But apparently people after them figured this out. And so even without an RS-6000 to run a program on, these computers, they actually give us very good information within seconds. Very often the correct assessment within seconds. So that's, and Deep Blue, they'd say, oh, well, you crunch it on this big machine for 3 minutes and you'll get the right answer. So it's just a complete sea change there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very revealing.
That is quite true. I can give my own answer to your question if I may share my screen
Please.
briefly.
Mm.
Okay.
Please
So,
do.
I was invited to write a review of computer chess. So do you see the rating computer science via chess?
Mm-hmm.
In memoriam Daniel Kopek, whom we've already mentioned on the show, and Hans
Yes.
Berliner. So this is an idea of how advances in computer chess paralleled advances in computer science in general. And I go into to a review of computer chess, alpha beta search, and all that. Then does getting some of my work on the logistic relation of likelihood to vowels. But at the end, I give intrinsic ratings of all these computers. So Deep Blue over Kasparov, I measured Deep Blue's intrinsic rating as being, over 2850, but
Mhm.
not over 3000. The error bars, go up to 3100, but certainly less than today's Stockfish.
Yeah.
And my system is good up to 3100. It loses mojo after that. Whereas Kasparov played 200 points below his rating, again on the edge of his error bars. But I
Right.
definitely say that Kasparov was psyched out.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
We
so-
broke him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you broke him. Yeah, something like that. And
We
Nate
didn't try,
Silver,
but he was
Right.
broken. No question.
and Nate Silver has written as much in his book, The Signal and the Noise. That's a very
Yes.
good chapter. Yeah. So,
That's the common wisdom, was that
Mhm.
Kasparov played less than Kasparov. He
Yeah.
did not play as himself.
mhm.
Same thing happened to him in a match with Kramnik in 2000. However,
I think so.
let's take 1 minute break and we'll continue right after that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's another area that I'm trying to explore is investing, which I do a show on Wednesdays on VMTV about investing. And I did one show here on Saturday where I was trying to put together the idea why chess players must be good at investing. Simply because both of them are based on recognition of patterns. And if
Values.
chess players are so good at recognition of patterns or so, they must be good at investing because the movements of stocks and everything is also based on certain patterns, which is not too difficult to recognize, but it's a different area altogether anyway. Jim, you've been on a few of these investment shows, so you know a little bit more what we're talking about. So we just spoke about Garry Kasparov, where he played two worst matches of his life, one against Joel, your
My machine.
to IBM, and the one when he played Kramnik and
Deep Joel.
I do get a lot of mileage out of saying that the first accusation was that a computer was cheating with a human being.
Yes, it is very comical, and in fact, it was even comical then. You know, when it was when people put it to me, I said, "So you're saying that Garry Kasparov is saying that he lost to me instead of Deep Blue? Isn't that worse?" Yeah,
worse.
that worse. So it's just kind of silly.
He should have organized a match revanche, but instead of IBM, to have you playing against him. Okay, why should I bother to play Deep Blue when I can play someone who kept helping to program the Deep Blue, the Grandmaster Joel Benjamin, and maybe I'll be lucky to beat him.
Well, the problem is he kept on with computers, and yeah, maybe he should have just completely forgotten about that. Put that aside. It was ultimately a losing battle.
There is also one moment which I don't quite understand, that IBM, according to what I read, dismantled this Deep Blue project, and therefore there was never much revenge, simply because that beast no longer existed. Is that
Well,
true?
the thing is, first of all, there was never going to be a third match. I think under any circumstances, we were told by the brass during that second match, this is it. This is it. I think the only thing that could possibly have convinced them to have another match might have been a draw, if the match, which I actually asked them about. I asked the people that I had access to. I asked them before the last game. I said, look, our opponent is completely broken. He's just destroyed himself psychologically. He might offer a draw, because he can't play. What do you want to do? Because I can make a chess decision, but would you guys want to draw and match, or should we go for the win? What do you want to do? I think the people that I talked to really couldn't answer that question. But this is something that I thought about. It could have been a draw and match.
Wow.
Once we won the match, there was absolutely no reason IBM would do it again. And all chess players should understand that. IBM is not in the chess business. They didn't care about a lifetime of chess competition. They succeeded. They had no reason to continue with chess. And when you talk about dismantling it, yes, they took it off the RS-6000 and they used that RS-6000 for something else. The Deep Blue program still existed. I think Feng Shu had it. I think he even bought the rights to it. So it wasn't like it didn't exist and you couldn't play it anymore, but you weren't going to be able to play it on the RS-6000. That was IBM equipment. IBM wasn't interested anymore.
And the RS-6000 is not as fast as they make now. So, that's not the...
We're talking about
anymore.
1997.
But
Right.
Joe, would you agree that there was one more thing that people forgetting, that during the match, capitalization of IBM stock rose $10 billion. Would that not be enough reason to have yet another match? Or they don't care about $10 billion?
Why would they get $10 billion? They already won. All they could do is lose. I'm
talking about capitalization.
But I'm saying all they could do in another match is have a failure. They've already had ultimate success. They won. All anybody in the world knows is they won. Who cares about chess players? They're not their audience. They won.
Sasha,
why would they come back to try to fail?
Yeah.
Sasha, what they capitalized on was the advertising and publicity around
Yes.
it. And the fact
Absolutely.
that they did that once doesn't mean that they could do that again. They would not get that same bang for the buck again.
No.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
It's hard to say, because Gary won the first match against a different IBM program, and
Well, it wasn't really a different IBM program. It was just an earlier version of the
earlier.
IBM program.
Yes, that's correct. So the second match was yet organized and was highly successful, simply because of the fact that Gary lost it. So the third match would not be.
No, that's another myth. I mean, IBM made a tremendous amount of money during that match before it was over. Even if they lost it, they still would have gained from it. It wasn't because it ended that way. In fact, the way it ended was terrible because the match ended and Kasparov gets up and said, "You guys cheated." So again, why does IBM want to have a match with someone who just said they cheated? How is that good for them? How is that good publicity? They would just want to say, "We won the match. Okay, let's move on."
Right.
Exactly.
And there's no reason to think they should do differently.
Exactly, and that's what happened, and that's now all history.
Yeah.
No, no longer that. So, is it fair to say that the end of glorious chess of the past was really at the moment that machine beat the world champion? So that actually ended. Actually, I my own thinking on the subject is that it wasn't just that much. It was the beginning of the death of chess of the past, and it was finalized with advancement of Alpha Zero and latest versions of Stockfish, when they not only played better than world champion, but supposedly probably 500 points better than world champion. And that basically ended the era of classical chess. Because today, if you look at the Carlsen games or so on, and there are so many blunders and mistakes or so on, and yet he's learning his craft from Alpha Zero and Stockfish or so on. So essentially, you may ask question, why do we need inferior version of Alpha Zero, even though it's practiced by Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi, Giri, and all these players, when we can have perfect Alpha Zero, having Alpha Zero itself, and then we have a perfect game. Why do we need inferior Alpha Zero's version? What do you think?
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I
go
go ahead,
ahead,
Joel.
Jim. No, I've been speaking a lot, so I'm interested in hearing what you said. What you want to say?
Well, I think there's two different questions that boiled into that one. Is that are we looking for the absolute truth in chess? And then the human element is not a factor in that. The computers have got that in terms of like what is the absolute precise. The humans cannot compete in that area. But what is chess competition? It's far more than that. It's the competition between two individuals to find what is the truth, the best truth that they can get at head to head. Because it takes two to create a perfect game, and we know that we're not going to create that perfect game, but who's going to get closer to perfection, or who's going to find the truth, what's closer to the truth between these two individuals, and that gets the element of competition, and that's what's fascinating to people like me. And I think, and under your question is now are has that competition been changed by the nature of the computers? The computers have given them so much information. Are they competing against each other or against computer analysis? Who's memorized the computer analysis longer and better than the other? And
Like
that is an
Carolina
open question to me. Yes,
against
because
MVL last month. Yeah, blitzed
it's
off
just
30 moves to challenge MVL, reach a position that the computer said he was slightly worse, but true. No.
yeah.
There,
So
there is one.
this has changed the nature of the competition.
Not only competition, but all chess ambience. You see, I remember time when each new chess book, especially by world champions or contenders, it was like a big sort of a statement that people were waiting when it's going to be published and available or so on. If you remember Fisher's 60 my 60 memorable games,
Of course.
um, and people were lining up. I remember I was still in Russia when the Russian version of the book appeared. People were killing to get this book. Now, if you imagine today there will be published, let's say, a book by Nepomniachtchi, my 60 memorable games, or Giri, my 60 memorable games, or by other all these people who are playing this Carlsen tournaments. Would anybody buy this
But
book?
but that's not because of the engines. That's because of the other technology. It's because people have seen all the games played live. They've seen analysis. They've listened to analysis of the games live. They've had all that stuff already. Books were a much bigger deal in the past
Yes,
because that's all we had. So
Exactly.
that's right.
that's never going to be the same because of all the
Right.
technology. And it's a shame because this is the era in which I'm writing books.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, your
And I
book,
was one of the
So
people lining up for Joel's latest book.
there is another thing. I think I discussed it with Grandmaster Mikhail Marin, who is very
Mhm.
frequent
He's a
guest
good
on the
author.
programs.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a good author, but you see, his dilemma is that to write good chess books about the tournament, about match, or about anything, you immediately you have to use computer programs to analyze the
Yes.
game. Without that, it's not worth anything because
Yes.
That's even a requirement from the publishers.
it's
It is an
requirement.
expected check.
Exactly.
Yes, sure.
So now all those books, they're about the same thing because let's see, he writes a book, or I can write a book if I wanted, or you can write the book, or anybody can write a book, and they will have the same analysis, really.
No, but if you're not a strong player, your books are not going to be as good
No,
because
I hope so.
because you don't know how to explain the computer analysis. And
I
I
hope
can tell
so.
you that when I write books, of course, I have this dilemma. And I wrote a book last year called World Champion Chess for Juniors, which was perhaps an unfortunate title because it's a really good book for everyone, whatever your age is. But I really tried to explain. It was really for people who don't necessarily have intimate knowledge of the world champions, what they were about, and why they were great players. And in analyzing the games, of course, the computer shows that a lot of the great moves weren't exactly great moves or weren't the best moves objectively. That still doesn't take away from the beauty and the creativity. So I tried to navigate this. I tried to give both sides of the story, the search for perfection, but also creativity and genius and the fact, how their minds worked and how they produce these games, and try to give that full picture and try to explain something to people who are just looking at the numbers, that the computer gives.
And we all know. I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
One thing I've been working on has been how to quantify the element of challenge at chess, where a move may be objectively inferior, but my predictive analytic model can judge the likelihood of the opponent finding the refutation and calculate the expected return. And often the expected return is higher with a more complicated and challenging move.
And by the way, in this other book of mine, Better Thinking, Better Chess, I gave a lot of positions. I talked a lot of problems for my own games. And there's one game. One of my favorite games was a game from the Olympiad against Popovich, who was then of I don't know if Yugoslavia was. I guess it wasn't the country. Maybe it was Serbia. I don't remember exactly. But it was. I got to this position right after time control, and I knew I'm winning. I tried to work it out, and I looked at this. Looked for a tactical win, and I tried to calculate, and I saw things that were maybe winning, but it was very hard to judge as many moves in the future. It was very murky. There was one variation where I have this problem move, which forces a win, which I never would have seen over the board. And I thought for half an hour. I said, I didn't like any of this stuff. And I said, well, I'm winning this position. What's going on? All these defenses, he plays bishop f5 and then knight c4. And then I said, wait a second, what if I just attack the knight with my bishop and then take it, just trade it? And that was the right thing to do. And I've looked, this game was played in 1994. So there've been many versions of engines over the years. And now the modern and today's engines say, bishop b4, it's the best move. It's actually the best move.
Wow.
But not only it's the best move, it wins easily because everything that comes after that is easy to understand. And that's what people should appreciate, that the best move is not just the one that gets the biggest score. It's the one that wins in a way that you can understand.
Was it intuition, Joe?
Well said.
You choose this
Very
move?
well said. Yep.
What's that?
Was it intuition that you choose this move?
Well, it was just a dissatisfaction with everything else, and I just said, okay, I got to start over. I got to just try to think of this in simple terms and not variations. What do I need to do to get rid of these defenses? And then it popped into my head.
And an AlphaZero engine ought to be able to reflect that factor, but it has to not assume that it's the opponent is as strong as it is.
But isn't AlphaZero pretty much useless to anybody outside of like the top 3 players in the world with all their access to the biggest technology? And for lay people, it doesn't tell us anything, right? Its moves aren't understandable.
That's exactly right, Joel. Because I can play the move that AlphaZero suggests, that if I don't know how to follow up on it, I'm going to lose the game, even if I played objectively the best move.
Like Alpha
You know?
Zero sacrifices 3 pawns and it wins down the line. Who can do that? You sacrifice 3 pawns, you don't make a perfect move, you lose the game.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I'm talking about a step down Alpha Zero that would judge the return in self-play against a fallible opponent rather than against itself. And mathematically, it's a very difficult thing to model.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It would be interesting. It really would.
Yeah.
We have another issue. You're not familiar, but Jim is with our model of democratic chess, where basically 2 grandmasters are playing games. Let's see, 25, maybe 30 minutes with delay, and people online are following the game, and they have to predict moves, and whoever gets more points. So first of all, you have to choose move that grandmaster is about to make before it's made, and second of all, you have to calculate the amount of crowns to put on each move. It could be 5, 25, and 100, and whoever collects more crowns at the end of the game is a winner of the contest, and there are cash prizes for winners and so on. So, Jim, you participated in a couple of contests. So, how did you decide? Okay, there is, of course, you see the position, you listen to commentaries, and you see top 3 moves by Stockfish. So, there's kind of a lot of information available to you. So, how did you make your decision? First of all, move, and second of all, how many crowns to put on each move?
Yes, I found this to be very challenging. I played twice. And the first time I didn't do so well, and the second time I did much better because I learned a lot from my first experience. And one is I didn't pay attention to the analysis or to Stockfish. I was evaluating it based on my own analysis. And I thought that I would never again try to predict Shirov's moves. That was my key learning.
That's a possible thing. Yes.
So I need someone not as strong as Shirov, or not as I wouldn't try to predict Shabalov's move. I would like to say someone chess that I understand, and then I could do better.
John, was it one chess championship US that you shared first with Shabalov?
I did in 2000. I shared first with Shabalov and Saruhan.
Mm-hmm. Good company.
I'm sorry?
Very good company.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Yasser's moves I could understand better than Shabalov's.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to say. I mean, because Yasser is very strategic and really not that interested in tactics, and Shaba is very tactical, although not big on calculation. I would say that Kaidanov is a big calculator. Shaba is more an intuitive tactician, but Saruhan, I found Saruhan to be a strategic player whose mind worked differently from almost everybody else. His appreciation of positional chess was very, very unusual. So I'm not sure that I was able to predict his moves that well. But it's interesting because both of those players, especially with White, I have very good scores against.
Yeah,
Yasser was very, very hard for me,
Yasser was such a good player, but it was like Karpov. I couldn't predict Kasparov's moves as well as I could predict Karpov's. He was more understandable to me because they were strategic. And some of especially the intuitive tacticians like Tal, forget it. Shabalov, forget it. Shirov, forget it. I just can't predict some of the moves that they would make.
That's that Latvian school. Shirov and Shaba very much modeled after Tal.
Joel, you just recently competed in U.S. Seniors Championship.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Last year you won it. So
it's funny. I won it when it was online. And normally, I don't play that much online chess. Usually I'm not particularly good at fast chess, but it seemed to benefit me because I just tried to play very practically, just tried to get a playable position in the opening and not take a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And it worked out very well. And this year was a complete disaster. But, a lot of that was because I just had a very long layoff. I hadn't played over the board chess since March 2020, when I was hustling back from the Czech Republic before Trump closed the country down.
Yes.
And so I was very rusty. And also, I'd never played chess with a mask on. So, that's another thing maybe you don't think about, but most over-the-board tournaments, you're wearing masks. And it is, I think this is particularly more difficult for older players. That's why I laugh when people complain about kids having to wear masks at school. The kids have no problem with it. Visit a chess tournament. You see all these kids. They're mostly kids. They all have masks on. No problem. They're very calm. I'm sitting there. So there's that adjustment. So I was just by the end of the tournament, I started to get used to it. But yeah,
you asked us the trivia question. I've got one for you. Who has won the U.S. Junior Championship, the U.S. Championship, and the U.S. Senior Championship?
Yes. Okay. That's right. Yeah.
But something about senior. When I won the senior championship, it was in its second year of existence, so it's not like many people had the opportunity to win that. And Shabalov won the first and wasn't in the country as a junior, so he couldn't win that tournament. So, when I won that tournament, mostly I was thinking about, oh man, this $12,000, I could make 3 mortgage payments. This is going to be fantastic. I'm so happy. And Maurice is saying, it's like, Joel, are you very excited about being the first one to do the triple? And I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is pretty cool.
Well, it is good. It goes on your Hall of Fame resume.
I was thinking $12,000.
Wait a sec, Joel. There is one more thing about your chess career. You were competing in Canada in a World Chess World Festival in 1988 in St. John, right?
Yeah.
And you were a winner of.
I won that first international. That was very exciting.
Yeah,
and that was $10,000 Canadian.
That was great. That was great. Well, however, Tal, by winning the Blitz World Championship, he got $50,000 richer.
Good for him. Everybody loved it. Everybody was so happy to see Tal because everybody loved Tal. He was such he was such a down to earth guy. Most world champions, I would expect, like not even going to talk to me, but Tal was like happy to hang out with anybody and talk chess and play blitz and have fun. He was such a good guy.
Joel, was that your experience with Anand as well? Because he talked to me, so I was like, "Wow, that is pretty cool."
Yeah, but I know him in a very different way because I met him when he was much younger, and I played him in Vaikanze in 1989 when he wasn't quite the superstar yet. But yeah, he's a down to earth guy. Probably they're the two nicest guys, let's say, to be world champion.
Did Anand ever play in Goichberg tournaments in the 80s? Or
he played in the World Open at least twice. And I can tell you that because I just finished writing a book on the World Open. That's my next one out. History of the World Open.
Oh, that would be wonderful to see.
Winning the World Open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd stand in line for that one.
Ken is in there.
You get a cut for your game against. Yeah, I get a cut for my game against you. Yeah, but anyway.
Well, you also include a game you won as a young player because in those early 70s, it was like really kind of like the first great opportunity for the junior players, and we were all lining up to beat Walter Brown, because Walter Brown was so weak against junior players because he wanted to win every single game, and he didn't realize that we were talented, So Ken got him, and Michael Rode got him, and eventually I did, and it was good stepping stone for us.
Yeah, but those were the days.
But Anand played, and Anand is in the book because. There's a little story about his game with Dulugi from 1986. And, Anand and Dulugi were two noted speed demons. They both played super fast. And Dulugi was winning the game most of the way. But Anand was moving so fast, and Max just didn't like the fact that this guy was, playing faster than him. So Max wanted to play super fast instead of taking his time and working out the win. And Anand swindled him into a draw.
Tell me, Joel, before we finish the program, I wanted to ask you, have you had aspirations to become a world champion? And if yes, when you realize that it's not going to be?
Well, I suppose that, I thought, like this would be really good if it could happen. I mean, I came up in a very different time. So like when I hit the big time, when I became, top 100, even I think I got as high as number 25 in the world.
Wow.
What was the chess world like? There were no Chinese players. There were no Indian players. There were most of the best Russian players were stuck in the gulag. They weren't going anywhere. They weren't able to play. So it was just me and a bunch of guys from Western Europe. I mean, it was a lot easier to be a top player. I could get a big appearance fee for going to a European Open tournament.
Wow.
Like after a while, I couldn't get my expenses paid to go to an Open tournament. So the competition was a lot different. It's not as hard as it was now. Of course, we didn't have the technology. But I mean, it was never like an all-consuming thing. I wanted to live my life as in a normal way. I would say, that I was maybe, more of a Nakamura and less of a Caruana. I mean, like one big difference between them, just putting talents aside, is that Nakamura is interested in a lot of things. And I don't want to say that Fabiano isn't, but he's very, very focused on his chess. And you need that kind of laser focus. You need to, like I needed to, maybe go and live in Europe and just play in one tournament after another. And I never really wanted to change my life to make that happen. And, if you don't have that level of commitment, you're definitely not going to get there.
Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant. Joe, it's my pleasure to have you on the program. Ken, thank you so much. Jim,
Yep.
you're always welcome here.
I want to say two
please.
quick things.
Yes.
Okay, so one quick thing, just to share my screen, I have the game that Joel was talking about, which is, and where the engine is showing, it's this game against Popovich, and Bishop B4
Yes.
is the clear best choice. Queen F8 has come close to it on some occasions.
But it is in one of the main variations is the move Bishop B8, and it's just outrageous. Like Queen F8, Bishop F5, Bishop D6, Queen A8, Bishop B8. I mean, this is the move. I would never dream of this move. I mean, if I was looking at that exact position, I probably wouldn't. I maybe would find Bishop B8, but there's no way 4 moves earlier in my head I would be able to see that and calculate it. So, the best moves in that variation, and that's just make it easier for yourself. And I was very proud of Bishop B4, and one of the things that made me especially proud of finding it was a man who tried to cause a lot of trouble for me in chess. Mark Dvoretsky was actually watching at the time, so I was very happy to show him that I was able to come up with some pretty good chess moves without his help.
Okay, that's good to know. And then the second thing I want to bring up, out of curiosity, has the wearing of masks affected poker in your ability to read your opponent's expressions?
Oh, and I don't know the extent of what the mask usage is, because in television, I'm sure that they would try to run those tournaments without masks if they could. But that is. I mean, in chess it's true as well.
But
very good point.
Are the ladies chess players also required to wear masks during tournament?
Why should it be any different?
Right.
Okay, I'll tell you next time. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask one question, Sasha? I know
please,
you have to leave.
Please do it.
Okay. I think for the purpose of ending the show, I know Sasha's under the gun for time, but do you think that the advance in computer chess has had an impact? And I'd say yes, it's had an impact. Is it negative or positive for the spirit of competition in the good chess players of today? And Joel and Ken, I'd like you to tell me your opinion and end with Sasha. Joel,
I would say if you use the phrase spirit of competition, I would say negative. because we never had to worry about cheating at all. I mean, we used to have, Russians talking to each other, and okay, it's very easy, just made rules, people don't talk to each other. That's easy. But the computer aspect, so the spirit of competition, if you use that phrase, it's gone down.
Yeah, negative, even going beyond that. Kasparov himself was quoted as complaining that nowadays juniors only want to know, quote, the move, the computer move, and not the deeper strategy and thinking that goes into the position. So,
and that's what we can teach them.
yeah, that's
That's the
right.
part we can teach them if they want to learn.
All I could
Sasha?
say is that it's not. It's not to find the strongest moves in each position. It was fascinating at the times of Botvinnik, Fischer, up to Garry Kasparov probably. However, nowadays finding the strongest moves is obsolete subject simply because there is AlphaZero and Stockfish. We will do it in a second. Number two, enjoyment of a chess game. When you look at the chess games and you're trying to do two things. One is enjoy the game, and another one to learn something from it. So if you look in today computerized games that all the top players starting with Carlsen learning from AlphaZero and Stockfish, and you look at the game which starts e4, e5, knight f3, knight e6, knight c3, knight f6, and Carlsen plays a4. You cannot learn anything from that. You cannot enjoy it either because human brains are not wired the way to able to enjoy that. It's just like people in classical music can enjoy Bach and Beethoven and Chopin, but cannot enjoy today's noise, whatever is.
Well, also in today's video world, we have entertainment. I mean, what is the biggest connection with a lot of chess players? It's watching players live stream. That's like Nakamura doesn't even need to play chess anymore.
Absolutely.
Because he's such a superstar. As a
Very
live
true.
streamer, that's what people want. It's become entertainment. It's become like a lot of things. It's become more entertainment than a game of skill,
Agreed.
and everyone has to adjust to this world. All the top players are. I mean, that's Carlsen is just trying to provide something interesting, because so many games are boring. It's just looking for some kind of challenge.
One of my
It's not
professional
pretty
colleagues
sometimes.
in computer science gave me props as a comment in my blog because Adgamador had mentioned my name. Wait a second, who's Adgamador?
He's got millions of subscribers,
Yes.
and he's not a strong player, and he has a thick accent, I think, and he's got millions of subscribers. I want to know his secret.
I have to say.
I want to know his secret, though.
Yeah.
Me too.
I want millions of subscribers, too. I want to pay off my mortgage.
Well, there are also, don't forget, Bates sisters.
Well, they're beautiful. I mean,
beautiful.
I can understand why people want to look at them in videos. Yeah, but that they found a niche. Yeah.
I've not viewed them, so
Power
I can't
to
say.
them.
It would be great if they wouldn't play chess. They
They're
would
probably
just
short text, though, probably too. So
Okay,
That
guys.
may be the case. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the advantage of online chess for them, at least, is that they don't have to wear masks. Because if they wear,
Yeah.
nobody would care about them.
Yeah. That's true.
Anyway,
true.
guys, thank you so much for today's program, and I hope in the near future we'll get together again and we'll enjoy ourselves. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Joel.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
TV.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Okay, yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right.